Hi, I'm Kathy, the Adult Services Librarian at the Waynesville Library. And today I'm going to show you how to make some beautiful decorated Christmas cookies, learning some new tricks that might make it a little easier. And these are beautiful enough for gift giving. So I'm going to get started making the dough. The recipe is on the website, but I'll just tell you briefly what's in it. It's some really soft butter. That's the first thing that we're going to do. We don't even need a mixer. We're going to do all this by hand. And a cup of powdered sugar, and one thing I will tell you about this dough, it will at one point feel like it's too dry and you'll be tempted to add some liquid. Don't do it, because you don't need to. 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour. I buy store brand for something like this because it has less protein than King Arthur. But it is just all-purpose flour. A little bit of salt. We had to make sure our llama made another appearance today. And we need a little bit of vanilla. I use clear when I'm making these cookies because you don't really want the added color when you're making a light colored cookie. All right, so getting creamed a little bit there. Add a little bit more flour. Okay, so we're getting this mixed in. It seems a little dry, but you just gotta trust me on this. 1/2 cup of cornstarch, which is maybe something that you've never used when making cookies before, but this recipe calls for cornstarch, and it seems to tenderize the cookie. The cookie will be like a cross between a sugar cookie and shortbread. So you just keep adding your dry in. And then it's a little kind of a shaggy dough. That's what it's called when it looks like that. It's not completely all the way mixed in. And in a few minutes we're gonna turn it out onto a piece of parchment paper, and we're going to knead it a little bit, and then it all comes together really well. All right, so once you get most of the dry in, what I do is I just take my hands, just like you would do with shortbread. Kind of mix it in a little bit like that before we turn it out, just to get most of the dry bits mixed in. So once you get your dough mostly mixed, dump it on some parchment paper with a little dusting of flour, and then you just work that in, knead it just a little bit. You don't want to develop the gluten, so of course you're not going to knead it like you would bread, but this is a very forgiving dough, and it's kind of hard to mess it up. So once you get it mixed in real well like that, you're going to flatten it out, and then we're going to roll it out and cut the shapes. So now that we've got our dough all mixed together and ready to roll, let me show you a nice little trick for getting the cookies the exact same thickness. So you can buy these little silicone lifts that go on the end, and they're, of course, in various sizes. So this one is 1/2 inch because we want this to be a really thick cookie. And you'll see why when we dip it in the glaze. All right, so you just roll it out, and if you see it starting to stick a little bit, just add a little bit of flour. And this silicone stop on the ends here will keep it from going any thinner than 1/2 inch, and that's what we want. So once you feel the stops against the parchment paper, you know that your thickness is right where you want it. And this is important when you're glazing a cookie because you want the glaze to not be thicker on one side than another. So it's really great if they're perfectly exactly measured 1/2 inch. Okay, so just cut your 3-inch. This is a 3-inch ring. And then this goes on another piece of parchment paper that you stick in the fridge for about an hour, just to cool the dough down before it goes in the oven. So your cookies will look like this, nice and thick, and like a real nice soft cookie dough, like a sugar dough, but a little bit more texture because of the cornstarch. So now your cookies have been sitting on a cookie sheet on parchment paper in the fridge for about an hour. Bake them at 350 for about 12 minutes. And this is what they look like when they come out. They will not brown, so if you wait for the browning, you'll overcook them. So about 12 to 14 minutes, depending on your oven. So you just want to lift one up and see if it still looks real light on the bottom. They are done. And then the next thing you're gonna do is dip it in glaze. So I'm just gonna whip up a little glaze here for you real quick. This is clear vanilla again, and a little bit of milk till you get the right texture. This glaze needs to be thick, and I'll show you why in just a moment. You're not making a typical glaze like you might pour over, say, zucchini bread or something like that. It needs to be a little bit thicker than that. And I will show you why in just a moment. The clear vanilla is really nice because when we add the blue, we don't want that dark color to compete with the blue dye. And then you just mix it up until you get the right texture. The recipe calls for the exact amount of milk, but I just like to eyeball it. Pour it a little bit more as you need it. Okay, so that's just about ready. Add a little bit more liquid. That's just about the right texture. And see, that is a little thicker than what you would normally have for a glaze. Let's add a little bit of blue. You can get it as dark as you want. This is a gel food color. You can use this. You can use the old-timey liquid blue. Also, this one's real nice. This is Wilton. It's delphinium blue, and this is also a gel. You only need a speck, depending on how blue you want it, of course. As you can see, I put a whole drop in. I wanted to show you the difference. This one that I made earlier is a little drop of it on a toothpick. So you can see the difference. If you actually just squirt the bottle, you will get a really bright blue color. I just thought it'd be fun to experiment and add a little bit more. You can add as little or as much as you like. So this is the texture that you want. Take care to try to get rid of as many of the bubbles as you can, but I'll show you how to get rid of them on your cookie. All right. So this is a interesting way of glazing. That's why we made the cookie so thick. It can handle it really well. So what I like to do is just take my finger and get rid of some of that excess. Use a little bit more. And you'll see, you can just go around with your finger like this and kind of clean it up a little bit. And in a moment, a little bit might drip down. And you can see on the sides there, when it does, you can just go around with your finger and clean it up a little bit. If you see a spot that's a little dry, it's real easy to fix it up here because it will smooth out. I like to tap it to get rid of the air bubbles, and then when you see them forming, you can just do this and they will go away. So that's the easy glaze. Now I'm going to show you how to decorate when it's still wet. You can decorate it think would look good. Got some of this decorative sugar that's real shiny. And then you're gonna let that dry completely before you add the buttercream. So let me show you how to decorate the cookie there that's already got the icing on it, and I'll show you how to do the buttercream. Okay, so this one that I made earlier has already had time to dry. This one that we just glazed, it's gonna take about an hour before you can decorate that. We're gonna have a little bit of buttercream here. It's real easy. The recipe is on our webpage. It's just a tablespoon of very soft butter, some powdered sugar, a little bit of milk, and whatever extract you like. I use the clear vanilla. You do not have to use a pastry bag if you don't have one. Just put it in a Ziploc bag and cut the corner off. So I find it really easiest to use a little form so that I can get every single tree the same size and shape. So I just cut this little triangle, and that way it's a little guide for when you're actually putting down your buttercream. So you just start at the top, zigzag back and forth. Make sure your buttercream is soft. Right out of the fridge, it won't work very well. It's too hard. And then I like to add a little bit more of the decorative sugar on top. If you can find the little white treetops that are like a star, that would be really cute too, but I couldn't find them anywhere. So there you go. Once the buttercream on the top has enough time to dry out a little bit and form a little protective coating, you can actually put them in a gift bag for gift giving. They'll hold up really well. I keep them in the fridge because they are really good cold. And a big thank you to Chris at Cafe Sucre Farine, who showed me how to make these, and thanks to her beautiful blog and the images on there that she let me borrow, I was able to create this great handout for you all with all the instructions. So the recipes are at haywoodlibrary.org under virtual programming, along with all the instructions. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me at kathleen.olson@haywoodcountync.gov. Thanks for watching.